Hello, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. My voice has officially recovered from Indianapolis, which is good. Between hosting the 4 shows and doing a half dozen or so huddles, I think, over the course of the week, not to mention the information gathering at night, which requires a lot of other things going on. I was out of it for a couple days, still dealing with minor back spasms, a little bit better. Sitting still not the best. But we're here and we're back, and stuff's happening.
Just be glad you didn't have to do the drills, John.
That is true. I actually tried to jog last night. I got one shot up the left side of my back, and I'm like, oh, nope, not good, not ready to go yet. And then I fell asleep on my couch in an awkward position, and I tried to stand up afterwards. That did not go well for me. But we're back. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. So, guys, now we're going to start transitioning. Okay, we're going to have plenty of time to talk draft in April, and we'll do that with you. Like I said on a previous show, we're probably going to do maybe half as many of the pro day spots. Some of the pro days we just have one guy. We're probably not going to do that, or if we do it, maybe just for like 2 or 3 minutes, get the guy on, get him off, and move on. Just because I feel like we want to talk to you, and we want to talk about the Giants and what they're going to do with their draft picks. Well, plenty of time to do that, and we can still do Combine talk today for sure before we do the full transition to free agency tomorrow. I haven't had a chance to do my full Combine reaction yet. We've had all the guys work out since then, so we'll do that today. We'll do a little bit of free agency, and then we'll take a bunch of your calls at 201-939-4513. So I assume you and Matt did a pretty heavy Combine recap yesterday, right?
No, actually, we let the fans give us their reaction from the week, from the Stafford thing that kind of went down in L.A., and we did a lot of that. We didn't do a ton of Combine reaction because we thought it was their chance, knowing that you and I would be on today.
No, I think that was a good idea, and the Stafford thing made the Combine, Paul, a little bit more fun for us. It was another thing to track other than what was going on with the draft, obviously.
Fun may not be the word that all of us would use, but that interesting would be another one.
It certainly gave us a topic of conversation, lack of a better term.
It did.
So, obviously, it certainly sounds like, based on various reports, that the Giants were very interested there, based on what Joe Schoen said. And I think this is going to be my theme, guys. So you're going to be tired of me talking about this for the next 8 weeks. The Giants understand how important it is to find the quarterback, and they're going to be extremely aggressive in trying to find their quarterback, whether it's by trade, free agency, or the draft. And they know whatever quarterback they find has to be ready to win games today and ready to go.
Yes.
So that's where we are. That's going to be what's hovering over everything. I know I've gotten some fans to say, this is why, Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, don't want back because they're going to panic. They're going to be desperate. They're going to sell out the future. One, I don't think they're going to sell out the future. Like, I don't think you're going to get, a bunch of future picks and you're going to mortgage the next 2 or 3 drafts in order to find this quarterback.
I don't think so either.
So I think, for the most part now especially, it's going to be more of a money deal or a draft pick thing, right, in terms of trading up in this draft to get a quarterback. I think that's you heard all the reports, and again, this is not me going on any inside information, but based on the importance of this quarterback situation, Paul, trading up to 1 would not be out of the question for me. The problem is that I don't think the Titans know what they're doing yet, and free agency comes in a week. So if you're the Giants, you don't know if you can get up to 1. Both of us think the Browns are picking a quarterback at 2.
Right.
There might not be a guy left for you at 3.
Correct.
So you have to attack free agency as though you're not going to be able to draft a quarterback with that 3rd overall pick. Because right now, you don't know. Even if you want one, you don't know. Now, you can still draft a Tyler Shuck on round 2, a Jackson Dart, or something like that. But you're not going to rely on that guy to come in and start week 1 and expect to win football games.
Can't do it.
So for the next 9 days, as we head into free agency here, and I'll include the whole first week with that, you're going to have to figure out how to get a quarterback. So that's going to be our big focus here as we move forward. We'll take your calls on that, and we'll see how the Giants attack that situation. But you're with me, Paul, right? This is good. This is all hands on deck. You got to find a guy that's good and can win games.
You know what I'm curious about, John, and we've all heard a bunch of the names that are on the tier 1s and the tier 2s of the potentially available guys. We know the free agent guys will be available. Then there's also the trade market guys. I just wonder if there's going to be some name that pops up out of nowhere.
You never know.
None of us have even thought about or
possible.
Talked about, and somehow this guy... We wake up one morning and all of a sudden, boom, we find out there was a trade made of a guy that we have never even begun to discuss.
And by the way, it's not going to be Trevor Lawrence. I've gotten those tweets from you people. We just recorded a Joe Corey huddle that'll go up on Thursday. It was fantastic.
He was great, as always.
And that contract, you can't move it based on the way it's set up with the money. So.
And furthermore, Trevor Lawrence was on with Kay Adams on television last week.
I didn't know that.
Right before we went to the Combine. And I watched that interview, and he was very, very concerned and itchy when the rumor came out that the Steelers had potentially inquired about making a deal for him. So he said he was so shocked by that, he immediately got his agent in touch with Jacksonville management and said, okay, what's going on here? Are you guys really in talks about moving me? And he said he was given complete assurances by Jacksonville that they had no idea where that came from. They were not looking to move him. They satisfied all of his nervousness about how he is their guy. And so I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going anywhere.
And by the way, I was going before until I sidetracked myself. People talk about, you got this win-now mentality, it's bad. Guys, look, first of all, they aren't going to mortgage the future, in my opinion. But it's not just important to the general manager and head coach to win football games this year. John Mara desperately wants to win more games. I know there's a group of fans out there that are okay with being really bad this year. The owner is not one of those people. Like, this rips his guts out inside. Like, he does not want to lose games again. Now, again, that doesn't mean that you hurt the long-term fortunes of the franchise to do it. But, okay, you win 3 games this year, you get the first pick next year, and you try again. Like, that's not that's not okay in this building.
That's not a plan.
On any level. So,
no.
I get you might think that, and if that wants to be your plan, that's fine. That's not going to be a plan that anyone's going to follow and is going to get executed. So I just want to warn that group ahead of time that's kind of, and it's not just because of Joe Schoen and Brian Dable. It's an organizational thing.
Right.
Like they need, eventually you have to start winning football games. You can't just keep losing.
I would also add to you, John, that for every person out there who says to do that, if you talk to them in the middle of October, they're going to be furious as heck anyway.
I would say it's also just...
And they won't adhere to what they said they wanted to do.
And I would just say I think that's a minority, but it's a very vocal minority.
A very vocal minority.
And by the way, I understand that too. From an outside perspective, you've dealt with losing for so long, deal with another year. I've said that about the Knicks when I was a Knicks fan, right? But it's when you're in it, it's hard to look at it that way, and teams don't see it that way.
It's also a lot easier to say things in the offseason.
Right, especially when you're paying Brian Burns, you're paying Dexter Lawrence, you're paying Andrew Thomas. You have really good players you're paying a lot of money to that want to win football games too. So...
I mean, when's the last time that we talked to Dexter Lawrence?
And Malik Neighbors wants to win games too, by the way.
Oh, man.
You guys saw Malik Neighbors' tweets, right, this offseason?
Yeah. And how many times were we in that locker room after Giants losses and listened to Tibbs, Slayton, Neighbors, Dexter Lawrence, you name it. There are guys in there that are legitimately, teed off, and I'm using a nice word here, teed off. They're tired of it.
And again, I'm not saying that means you trade draft picks from future years and you hand out terrible contracts just to win now. That's not what you're doing. They should not do that under any circumstance. But it doesn't mean if you draft a quarterback, you don't also invest just money in a veteran quarterback that can help you win now. So I think that's what we're looking at. Now, in terms of the Combine, real quick, I just thought that was kind of like the big picture thing that I thought was important to...
I concur.
...to level set coming out of the Combine, which I think both you and I, without talking, came to the similar conclusion. Combine, real quick, and then we'll get to your calls. The best class in this, in my opinion, especially from the guys that worked out at the Combine, is the running back position.
It's really good.
Holy moly,
it's
is it
really good.
Everyone ran a 4.4. Everyone. Except for Caleb Johnson, who ran a 4.57, and he might be the third running back off the board because he's 220 pounds. But everyone else ran a 4.4. Guys that jumped out are Murray and Hampton. I've already heard some whispers that some people have him ahead of Ashton Genty on their running back board because of his testing, and Genty's not going to test that great. Not that it matters. He's an unbelievable running back, and I would certainly take Ashton Genty. Quinshon Judkins, I thought, had a fantastic workout. You know, you watch him, he's 5'11", he's 220 pounds. He looks like a between-the-tackles guy that seeks out contact, get 3, 4, 5 yards a pop, not a big play guy. That's Travion Henderson. He ran a 4.48 with a 1.51 10-yard split, which is phenomenal. 38.5-inch vertical and an 11-foot broad jump. Wow. That is an explosive player at 220 pounds. He is going to be an early second-round pick, and he is going to be an excellent NFL running back.
You know, John, I think you just mentioned something, and we talked about this on the last day that we were there. That was Friday, right? I'm losing control of the days. the thing that we mentioned, was it the gentleman from Draft Network? Is it Ryan Fowler?
Yes.
We talked about how this running backs class, they're all so good at their training and they were all expected to do so well in these times. I do wonder a little bit as to how many of those times are a tad artificial.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Because it's such a good class.
I don't know either because it is a good class. We know it's deep, right? We know there's a lot of backs in this class and probably more make-it running backs in this draft class than any in recent memory.
Right.
All right? We know that. But how impressive the times were. It was like every guy were coming up 4-4, 4-4, and they keep coming up and they keep coming up. And it's like, okay, how many of these guys just really trained for the combine to do that? And maybe that was a little bit, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Dilating?
No.
They're testing numbers.
No, and I get it. But we didn't see that in other positions.
No, we didn't.
Because I don't think this was that fast of a turf. We've had really fast turfs in Indy sometimes.
We have.
But this wasn't one of them. None of the other position groups had ridiculous numbers.
That's why it looked like an outlier to me.
I just think the group is that good.
And they might be.
Yeah.
They might be.
And I want to give one other thing out there, and I looked at this the other day. Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks on Move the Sticks talk about this a lot. Here are the top 6 rushers in the league last year, Paul. These are all the guys that had 1,300 yards or more, okay?
Yes.
Saquon, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs. Okay? 5 of those 6 players all had at least 300 carries. What do those 5 players have in common? I'll give them to you again. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs. What do those 5 guys all have in common? I'll take Gibbs out of it because he's not a full-time back. He kind of splits time.
Well, I was just going to say, aside from him, they're all bell cows.
They all weigh 220 pounds or more.
Well, yeah.
So if you want a guy that is going to be your bell cow, find the guy that weighs 220 pounds.
Bingo.
And Amarian Hampton does. Genty, I got to double check him, but he's short too. So it's when you're 5'9", you don't have to be a full 220. Like Kyron Williams, for example, he's the next guy. He carried it 300 times for almost 1,300 yards. He's only 205, but he's like 5'9". So if you're a little lower to the ground and you carry your weight a little bit better,
right?
I think that also helps. But Caleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins, Omarion Hampton, all these guys are 220 plus pounds. So there are a lot of guys in this group. You want to throw Damian Martinez into the mix.
Yeah, Henderson's over 200. Neal's over 200.
Right, but Neal's over 220, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Neal's 220. So those are guys that can carry the load. But a couple of the guys that I thought can be kind of like part-time backs that you want explosive guys, if that's what you're looking for, an explosive guy to complement Tyrone Tracy. R.J. Harvey at a UCF. Just 5'8", but 205 pounds, so that's a good weight for that size. Ran a 4.40. Great explosion times. And then a Jersey kid from Paulsburg, which I don't... Where's Paulsburg, Paul? Do you know where Paulsburg is?
No, I don't.
Well, it's in New Jersey, apparently. Tom, look up where Paulsburg is. I'm not sure where.
There's a Paulsboro.
Maybe it's Paulsboro, maybe? Maybe I have that wrong.
I'm not sure.
Well, Bashel Tootin is from... Is it Paulsburg or Paulsboro?
It's Paulsboro, New Jersey.
Paulsboro.
Right.
Is that South Jersey?
That's down.
That's South Jersey.
It's way down there, yeah.
So Bashel Tootin, 5'9", 206 pounds out of Virginia Tech. 4.30, a 1.49 10-yard split, which is insane. All right? A 40-inch vertical and a 10-10 broad. This guy, and he's built. Like, I don't know if you saw him at the podium. He is a thick dude.
I did see him.
So, this is a loaded running back class, and that really jumped out at me.
Did you like James, the Oregon kid?
Yes, very unimpressive athletically, but if you watch his tape, he's a good running back.
Yeah, his tape was good, and
which is fine. You don't have to be a super athlete to be a good running back. You don't.
I like this. I like this podium too. In talking to him. One of the things that he said was, "I like to punish the defender," and so I said to him, "Well, if you like that so much, as a running back, would you rather make a guy miss and run for 20 yards?" Or would you rather break a tackle and run for 20 yards?
He said break a tackle, I'm sure.
Yeah, break a tackle.
So there was a great quote from one of the offensive linemen on Saturday after we had left. We leave Friday afternoon after the quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs talk.
Right.
So Tyler Booker, who could be the top guard off the board this year from Alabama, didn't work out great, but whatever. The way you watch the tape, he's great. He goes, my goal every game is to make the guy I'm playing against no longer love the game of football.
I saw the quote. I did not speak to him and get that, but my goodness.
No, I thought it was a great line.
Phenomenal line.
Wide receivers were fine. A couple slot guys, which the Giants don't need, but Jalen Lane, Jalen Noel, and Kyle Williams all jumped at me. Tez Johnson, too. 4 slot guys I think are impressive. You're looking for a bigger guy to complement Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. The Stanford guy, Eric Iaminer, who's just under 6'2", 4.44. Very good time for him. Good jumps. You want to look at Matthew Golden's not a huge guy, 5'11", 190, but he ran really well. You want to draft him, but he's going to be gone probably mid-first round. He won't get there. Jaden Higgins, your guy, Paul. 6'4", 214, 4.47, 40. Good jumps, 39-inch vert, 10.8 broad. And then Isaac Tesla. You don't have to pick him in the second round. You could get him in third or fourth. 6'3.5". 214 pounds, 4.43, with some good testing as well. So, but again, overall, disappointing wide. And just in general, Paul, none of the top guys at these position groups tested.
No.
None of the top tight ends tested. None of the top defensive tackles tested. The top wide receivers didn't test. The top cornerbacks didn't test. So, you didn't get the top guys in this class really testing. So, that to me was disappointing overall.
Well, they're thinking they're going to go to their pro day on their own turf. Right?
Yep.
And be more comfortable, their own bed, their own trainer, their own environment.
And no Ohio State guys ran because their season went so long.
Right.
So that,
and they have an excuse.
Oh, no, and that's fine. I'm not criticizing those guys, but you're 0 for 15. They can have 15 drafted players.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of guys that didn't test because their season went so long.
I didn't get a final count on the Notre Dame players. Did all of them opt out of everything? I don't remember hearing that.
Well, Riley Leonard threw.
Yeah, he did. But
Howard Cross Jr. did not do anything. I think Kaiser worked out. Didn't Jack Kaiser work out the linebacker? Or am I wrong about that?
Honestly, I don't remember what the final count was on who worked out.
I'll look right now. I got
but
quick list here.
That's a team that obviously had the same reason to excuse themselves.
Howard Cross jumped.
Ohio State.
Howard Cross jumped. He did not run the 40. Keep going.
Okay. So, I think that a lot of these players are now deciding that, hey, we get the fact that the combine's the combine, but we're going to have to do the pro day anyway. So if we're going to do both of these events and we're confident in what we're going to put up in terms of our testing numbers, why should we put up 2 sets of testing numbers?
Right.
Because one of them could probably hurt us. It's not really going to help us very much if we just think we're going to do really well anyway. Then just test once. We don't think we're going to have to prove anything. So I think that's the mentality that some of these guys have. And that's why I think they're mostly deferring to their pro days. Then, of course, you do have some guys who've been banged up a little bit, too.
Yeah, and there were a number of those guys, especially a cornerback.
Yeah, and they'll legitimately say, hey, we needed more time.
It looks like Mitchell Evans is the only Notre Dame player that really did much of anything, the tight end.
It was one.
That was it.
Yeah.
A quick look through all the results, that was the only Notre Dame player.
I do like Mitchell Evans.
And that was another thing. We talk about how great the tight end class is. They did not test great.
No, they didn't.
Which is surprising. They're good players, but tight end has become very much a height, weight, speed testing type of position, and you did not have. Now again, Tyler Warren didn't test, Colston Loveland didn't test, and it sounds like Colston Loveland's going to be a while. He might not be clear for contact until the summer. So look out there.
This is a tight end class, by the way, that has mostly the receiving tight ends. They're pass game oriented.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be most of the tight ends moving forward.
Yeah,
that's just kind of how it goes. So that I was a little surprised by. Edge guys and defensive tackles were good, but again, a lot of the top guys didn't go in those groups, Paul, which was disappointing. But yeah, overall, I thought the offensive line group was fine. A big thing we're going to talk about. Will Campbell, just 32-5, 8-inch arms. Here's the thing, though, and I was going to try to talk to somebody over here about this. So the National Scouting Service, I think that's what it's called. Whatever the scouting services that runs the combine. Yeah. National Invitation, whatever.
I know.
They measure at the combine. I think.
The NIC?
Well, that's what it's called, the National Invitation Combine, but I'm not sure what the organization's called. Anyway, National Scouting Service thing, whatever. They measure the players, right, at the Senior Bowl and at the combine.
Yes.
The measurements were way different.
Yes, I know.
There was an offensive lineman that was a full inch different on his on his arm length. Armand Membu, who might be the top offensive tackle in this draft class, dropped a whole half inch on his arm length from the Senior Bowl.
How does that happen?
How does it happen?
I have no idea.
So I heard some people posit that when Will Campbell measures at LSU's Pro Day, he's going to get over 33-inch arms. Just because all the lengths seem to be shorter at the combine. I haven't gotten any sort of clearance on why that happened and any explanation, but that was weird because it's the same organization doing the measuring. So how are they so different from event to event?
I wanted to ask this while we were out because you went to the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not. I did want to ask you, who is it that's running those measurement checks?
My understanding from a couple people that do the draft stuff for a living more so than we do is that it's the same organization that does the measuring.
Well, somebody's got to get their standards in order.
Correct.
Because
an inch arm length on an offensive lineman is hugely important.
I mean, that could mean like 2-3 rounds in the draft.
That can move you from guard to tackle.
That too. Yeah,
I didn't understand that. That was weird to me.
I just, I didn't know who ran the Senior Bowl stuff. I always know that in past years, not that there was many discrepancies as there are now.
And usually, you'll get an eighth of an inch,
a quarter of an inch,
maybe a quarter.
That can happen,
but not like a half inch or a full inch. That's crazy.
No. So for me, I'll let you know a little secret. Scout told me one time, and this goes back so many years ago now. He said, pro day measurements, because they're on the home school's turf, they're going to be really kind of skewed.
Like Jalen Milroe's hands grew a half inch since the Senior Bowl. That was another one. He went from 9 5/8 to 10 inches. Sure, why not?
But just to give you an idea of what happens at the pro days.
It's like Hulk with the hand growing when he gets angry.
And you're going to see some of the guys who had disappointing measurements who are now going to have better measurements at the pro days. But this is the reason why. This one scout said to me, I remember we were clocking a specific wide receiver. He wouldn't tell me who it was. And he wouldn't tell me the school. And he goes, the guy did his 40 time. And we asked him to do it again. Nobody could believe his time was too good. Okay, boom, do it again. The guy consented. Did it again. And again, the time was just like not really believable.
Oh, there were a couple tricks.
Okay. Okay. So after everybody was cleared out, this scout and a couple of his other scouts' friends who did not believe the numbers.
Did they take the tape measure out?
They took the tape measure out.
What was it, a 39-yard dash?
39-yard dash.
Yep.
And
was it downhill?
There was a slight incline.
Those are the two tricks.
Slight incline to the way that the track was built.
The 40-yard dash becomes a 39-yard dash, and it's slightly downhill.
And you really couldn't see it that well with your eyes.
Of course not.
They used to talk about baseball. Catfish Hunter could tell you if the mound was just a fraction off.
Right.
The minute he stepped onto the rubber, he knew. He was like a scientist.
Well, guys, look, if go on a treadmill and run on a treadmill, feel the difference between it at 0 degrees and just 1% and a 1 degree incline.
Yeah.
It's significant. Like, you feel it. It makes a difference.
But it's not that easy to just see on quick glance.
No, of course not.
And so and then obviously the wind resistance is another one. But everybody knows that because of the Olympics.
Right.
They always talk about the wind resistance added times. So that's always one that's always part of it as well. But this is why, you got to have some type of standardized controls over all of these measurements. And you're right, John. When I was looking back at some of the stuff that we were getting sent, and I'm like, some of these are a little bit odd.
No, I'm with you. All right, let's get to the calls. 201-939-4513. Download Giants TV. It's our digital streaming app on the phone, on all your smart TVs, Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV has all of our content, game highlights on demand, direct to Big Blue fans. Go check it out. It's also in the Giants mobile app. All right, let's lead off with Dean in Minnesota. He's up first on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hi, Dean.
Yeah, hi. How are you guys?
We're great.
I need a minute to build up for the point I'm trying to make in this call-in. I don't know if you'll give me the time.
Yeah, go ahead.
But first, I want to make my prediction as to what the Giants will do during the free agency and the draft. I really expect them to sign Aaron Rodgers and also still go for a quarterback in the draft in the first round.
Yeah, do both. I think that makes sense, Dean.
Yeah. Now, tell me one thing. Do you agree with me that all the quarterbacks that shine during this season, they all play for teams that have very strong offensive line?
Yes. Mostly.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, and don't you agree also that the Giants were doing better when Andrew Thomas was not injured?
Yeah, I would say for the first six games, it was some of the best offensive line play we've. Now it's a low bar, but it's some of the best offensive line play we had seen here in a while.
You're checking a lot of boxes so far. Go ahead.
Yeah, and also if the quarterback has more options in terms of what he has to do, whether he has more wide receivers, or he has a good running back. Mm-hmm. Doesn't that give him more ammunition?
Of course.
To excel?
Yes.
Okay. So my point is, yeah, it is important that we get a very good quarterback, but it wouldn't do us any good if we do not build up the other essential corners or elements in the team that are needed.
Yep.
And I think that with the expansion of the cap for the season, we can have a couple of pro players, in terms of offensive line player, corners, maybe safety, and wide receiver, and yet during the draft, we can still go with two quarterbacks, whether first, second, or third round. I think, the rationale for drafting two quarterbacks in the draft is, chances are one of them will excel. And if you do have a good offensive line, if you do have good receivers, if you do have good running back and with good coach, you can still do good with the rookie quarterback as a starter in the beginning of the season.
Well, Dean, I would say it depends on the rookie. If you're picking a second or third round guy, the odds are they're giving you really good play in year one. It's tough. It's very tough.
I mean, it's even much of a long shot for a first rounder to excel as a rookie.
I mean, look at Caleb Williams last year. He was a top overall pick, and he struggled.
I think, Dean, to be honest, the only thing I would put a hold on you with here, I'm not so much checking a box on your Aaron Rodgers thing, but otherwise, I think you were doing really, really well. And then you got to this point where I think you said draft two quarterbacks. I don't see that in the plan. I think, Joe Shane has made it pretty clear he wants a veteran, and then he'd like to get a rookie.
I mean, if you draft like one in the 6th or 7th round, there's a second one. All right, I don't have a huge problem with that because you're throwing a dart, but I don't think you're getting two in the first 4 rounds.
But is that guy any better than Tommy DeVito? Probably not. So what's the point?
Well, my point here is if you get all the other essential elements, to have a good offense and to support your quarterback by signing pro players in the free agency, whether offensive line, another wide receiver, and also enforce your defense with good corner and good safety, then, an average quarterback might still have a chance to do well during the regular season.
No, Dean, you're right. An average quarterback would have a chance to do well. You're correct. But I think you're aiming for more than just an average quarterback if you're trying to draft one, because it's very hard to go. You might be okay for a couple years, but it's hard to get where you want to go, which is to contend for a Super Bowl with an average quarterback. Yeah. You need to find a special quarterback.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the rookie quarterback. I'm talking about drafting a quarterback in the first round, and I'm not saying that I want to draft Aaron Rodgers. I told you I predict that the Giants will do that, but it's not what I'm calling for.
Right.
But if you have the first round as a quarterback, and you have, like, say, the Ohio State, another quarterback in a draft, and you have all the other elements, you got that through the free agency, you're going to have a strong team, a strong offense, in my opinion, and you have a long-term plan. Because now, say if the two quarterbacks end up being good, then you will end up trading one of them and you will make a lot of money in the following seasons. And you will have a lot of money in your cap to add more players in the future. And if you argue that if you don't get the best quarterback this season, but will get it next season, then that means that you're arguing that the Giants will not be doing good this season, so they will end up selecting top pick or first few top picks next year to get a good quarterback in the draft next year.
Dean, I think there's a lot of ways to mix this salad, but where I will agree with you is that I do believe between free agency, the Giants' cap space, and I think John's going to second this, between free agency, the Giants' cap space, the potential to make a trade, but also their draft pick status, I think there's enough of talent available either through the NFL coffers right now or in this draft that the Giants can fill an awful lot of their weak spots this year.
And I do think you're adding two quarterbacks one way or the other, whether it's one in the draft and one in free agency or two in the draft. You will add at least two to the room, maybe three. There's a chance you add three to the room for all I know.
And two defensive tackles, and at least an offensive lineman, and at least a corner. I mean, and at least one running back. These are all spots that I think we pretty much agree the Giants are going to fortify.
Except that you're gonna end up using your cap money if you sign a quarterback in the free agency.
Well, and that's a good point. Unless you can figure out like a Kirk Cousins, right? If he ends up getting let go and then he signs with the veteran minimum, that would be the exception to that rule.
Right.
How good was Kirk Cousins? The last season or the previous season?
Well, 2 years ago he was excellent. Last year he was not very good.
I think as Carl Banks said on his.
Thank you, Dean. Good call.
Carl Banks does a pod periodically with Bob Papa, and as he said, and he expressed, he goes, look, if you're going to investigate Kirk Cousins, you go to your medical staff before you go to anybody else, and you say, hey.
Well, they have to look at him.
Let the medical staff get a hold of him, and if they say he's green-lighted, then you absolutely have interest. If they don't give you a green light, then not necessarily.
Remember, though, even if he checks the box and he's healthy, does that mean he can perform at the level he did before?
Well, that's up to your football people after your medical people say.
Yeah, but how do your football people know if it's because of the medical or just because it's old?
Well, that has to be a consideration and at least something you want to talk about. But if you don't get the green from the medical staff, there's no point even discussing it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. 201-939-4513. Rob is in Yonkers. He's up next. Hi, Rob.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. How you doing?
What's up, buddy?
All right, so first I want to start off with I wish we would have got Matthew Stafford because I feel like he was the best quarterback on that list of off-season.
Yep.
Also, I do not want Aaron Rodgers. We do not have we're known for not having a good offensive line. So I feel we don't need a pocket passer that can barely do anything. And if for some reason Andrew Thomas happens to go down again, guess what? Aaron Rodgers is going to basically be sacked 1,000 times this season.
Well, Rob, I will say this about Aaron Rodgers, okay? He's not the player he used to be. The last 2 years, especially, well, he was hurt the first year, but last year with the Jets, obviously, did not go well. They're picking, what are they, 8th, 7th in the draft? So it did not go well. And there are all the other stuff with him that comes along with the Pat McAfee show. And, he likes to run his offense his own way, have his own guys there, all these things. I agree. I would like to avoid those things.
Doesn't seem like a good fit.
But I will say this. If you give me the list of quarterbacks that are likely to be free agents this offseason, who's the best one?
Garoppolo, maybe?
No, it's probably Aaron Rodgers.
Well, he has the best. He has the best resume.
Again, if you just take ability on the field of the guys that'll be available, even at his age, he's probably the best, most talented one there. But it's everything else that comes along with it that you have to navigate.
The offensive line. If we can have someone to protect them, then he'd be okay. But
well, Rob, I hate to tell you, if you don't protect Russell Wilson, he's not going to be any good. If you don't block for Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not going to be any good.
No,
I don't care which quarterback you bring in, you're going to have to block for him. You don't have anyone in free agency, and Sam Darnold too, by the way, that's going to be able to overcome bad offensive line play. There are none of those guys. Those are the elite ones. The elite NFL quarterbacks are the ones that can overcome bad line play. Those guys are not going to fall on your lap.
Right.
Okay.
No doubt.
And three more things. I hope we get Travis Hunter because that will be good with a good defensive player. And as far as cornerback, I said that our cornerbacks do not turn around when they're defending their receiver. There's been numerous times when I see footballs fly past our cornerback's helmets. I'm like, dude, what you got to do is turn around, and guess what? You either smack the ball or you get an interception. I feel like we need like a Jason Sehorn to be the cornerback coach.
Well, Rob, sadly, they are well aware of that issue, and me and Paul watch them practice every day as Jerome Henderson drilled into these guys, specifically Deonte Banks again and again, the importance of getting your head turned around at the end of these plays. We are not at liberty to speak about it, but he took some pretty heavy measures to try to get him to do that.
Yeah.
and it just did not click. So I can tell you, Rob, even though you didn't see the results on the field, that they were coaching that very hard over the last couple of years.
Will be interesting to see. They did change the corners coach this year.
Yeah, and maybe he'll have a different method that
I don't know
that clicks with the guys. I don't know.
And just to be frank with you, I've talked to many different corners and secondary coaches over the years.
And thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
There are two ways to play that. You play the man first or you play the ball first.
And Bill Belichick always teaches, when the ball's coming down, get your arm in their arms. Right. And that's how Belichick doesn't teach getting your head around unless you're very much in phase.
Absolutely. So, and that's the first guy who I remember learning it from. So there are more than one ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, the way I've always kind of thought about it is that if you're in really good position, get your head around, because then you can make a play on the ball. If you're trailing a little bit, then you play the guy and the ball on the arms. If you're trailing,
I think ultimately, if you're a very skilled player and you can execute to the proper technique, more often than not, you'll be more often successful than not.
And that's why I like getting converted wide receivers to play corner, because they can more naturally get their head around to locate the ball.
And that's part of why I'm really
Hunter, right?
Yeah. No, I'm so salivating over Travis Hunter because I know he can make plays on the ball.
I love that Paul is the one salivating over the corner wide receiver this year. It's so out of a character for you. It's fantastic. I love it.
You like that, really?
I think I'm starting to change you a little bit. Dom, do you think? Is Paul starting to change a little bit?
Here's the problem. I think he's finally coming around.
No, here's the problem.
A lot of years.
There are no hog mollies worth that high a pick in this draft.
I mean, you would find one.
I can't find a hog molly.
You wanted to draft Cleveland Ferrell in the top 5.
Yeah, I remember that. And the Raiders did, and they got burned.
Yeah, they did. I think slowly but surely. I think I'm getting through a little bit. It's only taken 20 years, folks, but I think I've gotten to move a skosh in the right direction. By the way, you hear Dom. Do you know where Pearson is this week?
Yeah, he's on the ski slopes.
Yeah, he's like swishing around in Switzerland, right? Is that where he is, Dom? Wrong.
Where is it?
Wrong pot.
He's in France?
He's in France, and I hope that he's enjoying himself.
He is well-earned vacation, by the way. He does a great job, but he is swishing around at a chateau.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the French Alps.
Good for him.
Yeah, well.
Good for Pearson. I agree.
I just have one wish for him, besides the fact that I don't want him to get injured on those hills.
By the way, that's why I never did skiing. I'm always afraid I'm going to tear my ACL going skiing.
That's exactly why I want no part of it. My biggest wish is that by the time he gets back, the Knicks catch the Celtics in the standings.
Good luck with that, Paul.
Don't get ahead of yourself. Let's go to Donnie in Queens. He's up next. Hey, Donnie.
Brunson, baby.
Hey, guys. As always, great work down at the Combine. I really enjoyed listening along.
You're very kind.
We're a week away from what unfortunately has become the season for the Giants lately, with the offseason, basically. And while I'm excited, I can't say I'm too confident. And Paul, I really fear for you that exactly what you don't want to happen is going to happen.
Okay.
With Rodgers and a trade up for a quarterback. So I'm praying for you that doesn't happen.
You really think that Rodgers is coming here? Honestly.
Unfortunately, I do. And this is why. If the Giants had the first pick in the draft, they lost to the Colts, I think everyone knows they would take a quarterback. Whereas the Titans, we don't know what they're going to do. And the biggest reason for that is their GM is brand new, he has time, and he is not desperate.
Now, Donnie, I'll say this. Now, Donnie, I agree with you, by the way. I don't think we know what the Titans are going to do yet. I don't think they know what they're doing yet. Right. I will say this, though. Until the Giants, and it might be this week, who knows, until the Giants get those quarterbacks in here on their 30 visits, I don't think they are completely sold on picking a quarterback at 1 yet. Once they get through those 30 visits, then they might. I'm sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. And look, I'm just making an educated guess here, but unfortunately for Joe and Brian, it's put up or shut up, and it's a bad spot for the organization to be in, where your decision makers feel that way. And I respect Joe, and I understand what he said. He's not going to take any Hail Marys, but human nature is human nature, and there's no way that they're going to go into a season without something that they can sell their fan base, sell the ownership, and they're going to try to do two things. They're going to try to sell winning now, which, let's be honest, of the available players, that now that Stafford is no longer on the table, that probably is Rodgers. Unfortunately, not that I think he's any good anymore. I think he's shot. The prior caller was talking about protecting him and moving around. We've had quarterbacks that can run that get sacked.
Outside of his extensive resume, what other box makes him a good fit for this situation? I really don't.
Zero.
Right.
Other than the uneducated fan will get excited because Aaron Rodgers is on their football team.
Well, Donnie, I'll just add this very quickly.
At training camp, he'll make some wild throws because he won't be afraid of getting hit, and he can throw from all different angles, and it'll build hype.
Well, by the way, Donnie, he was great in the one practice we saw him against the Giants last summer. He was unbelievable.
Sure.
He threw very well.
I mean, look, I follow all the Jet writers on Twitter and stuff, and they're raving about the guy. It was clear to me, by week 2 that the guy didn't have it anymore. His legs are heavy now.
Well, Donnie, I'll just say this too, really quickly. I know you're talking about the win now thing with Dabes and Joe Shane, and I'll just say this again. This is not just. I mean, you said they have to sell John Mara on stuff. Well, John Mara wants to win too. Like, John Mara does not want to, and if you look at the home schedule, just look at it. I can list it for the fans if you need it. I'm sure you know it by now. I've said it enough times.
It's rough.
If you don't bring in a good quarterback, you're going to win like 1 or 2 home games this year. Like, that's just what it's going to be. And I promise you, I've not talked to Mr. Mara about this, but just listen to his postseason press conference. He does not want to sit through that again.
No.
He does not.
And quite honestly, Rodgers at his age, with the kind of beating he's taken over the years and the last couple of years, I'm not so sure he's going to get through another 17-game schedule anyway.
He might not. That's true, too. Go ahead, Donnie.
So I just see a lot of reasons why the fit isn't great. I'm sorry. I just don't see the fit.
Well, Paul, I totally agree with you. I don't want it to happen. I think it's going to happen. I think he's going to have very few options. I think he'll want to try to stick it to the Jets. He doesn't have to. He liked living around here, and I think he'll come relatively cheap to, what you might expect. Maybe under $25 million for the season. Perhaps with some incentives tacked on. He'll bring his buddy Adams over here, and the Giants will kind of do what they've been doing the last 10 years, which is spinning their wheels. It always seems like the Giants are trying to justify something or correct a wrong as opposed to having a true plan in place.
Donnie,
I
real
want to
quick.
make one comment real quick, and I have to go back to work.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Paul, Paul had said this. I think it was Scott in New Mexico had called a couple weeks ago about trading up, and Paul said something to the effect of, who in their right mind would do that in this draft class? And I don't necessarily disagree, but I would say who in their right mind would give Daniel Jones 6 years to stink as your starting quarterback? And the New York Giants just did that. So I got to go back to work. I'll hang up and listen.
No, thank you, Don.
Thank you, guys.
You will.
All right, I just want to go through I want to go through a yes or no exercise with Paul very quickly here. And again, I think trading up to one. And again, I don't think bringing in Rodgers affects what you do in the draft at all, because he's a 1-year. If he ends up being what they do, and I still don't think that is their first option here. I really don't. I think that is like, all right, well, we need somebody that we know can win games for us. So he's the only guy left.
Somebody decent.
And again, I think you can get him because there's not a lot of landing spots for him. I don't think you have to pay him a ton either. So that's not going to impact your future, right? You're not selling out the future to win now with that. You're just trying to win now while still trying to set up your future. You're trying to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to say if they do go like a 1-year Rodgers thing, right? That doesn't mean that you're not also trying to draft a quarterback high in the draft.
Well, yeah, because the Rodgers, and let's just go back a second to the Stafford thing. The Stafford thing, if the Giants were going to be a team to grab him, he was going to be the starter here for at least 2 years, probably 3.
Yeah.
Because of the contract you were going to have to give him as an extension.
I agree with that.
So that would have changed your entire draft perspective.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
Yes.
But Rodgers is a 1-year bridge.
And this is kind of my point. And again, I've talked about him on the show a million times. I'm not a Rodgers guy, okay? And I'm not changing my tune on that.
Right.
But assuming you're still going to secure your quarterback for the future, okay? Just this year, Paul. And again, you never know what guys are going to stay healthy, what guys are not going to be healthy, okay? 17-game season, They start all 17 games. Who's winning more games, Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson?
Wow. That's almost a coin flip for me.
Okay, that's fine. I'll buy that. I will buy that. That's fine. Aaron Rodgers or Justin Fields? Come on.
Probably Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. Can you find me another quarterback in free agency that would win more games than Aaron Rodgers?
Probably not. Now
and again, I'm not saying that you're going to go win a Super Bowl. You might even get to the playoffs. Who knows? But find me for this season what quarterback in free agency is going to help you win. You feel better about winning more games for you than him.
I'll give you
and again, I just think that's what the thought process is. And again, you still attack the draft to try to find your franchise future there. You just don't know right now whether or not you're going to be able to move to one to get it. So you have to approach it as though you can't.
Two-part addendum to that, though, is you're assuming that he plays all 17 games.
That's true.
And I don't know that Rodgers is in a position where I could feel really good about his durability.
I totally get that.
So that is one part.
That's fair.
I think even Jimmy G, at 34 years old, has a better chance of lasting than Rodgers. And I know he's been hurt in the past. I get it.
I'm not sure I believe that one, but okay.
All right. So that's part of that deal. And then the other thing is, if you're going to not factor health into the equation, because we just talked about it, Banks says if you give Kirk Cousins a clean bill of health, would you now consider he could win more games? You'd have to think about that one.
Yeah, I suppose.
If we're
both
not
those
counting
players,
health,
yeah.
if we're not counting health as part of the
Well,
deal.
again, I think you're trying to figure out what was the main thing behind Kirk Cousins' struggles last year. Was it health or was it the fact that he's 38? I don't know the answer
I don't
to
have
that
an answer
question.
to that either.
Now, the thing you like is that while Cousins actually got worse as the year went along, Rodgers actually played his best football the last 6 or 7 games.
Right.
So off the Achilles. So you saw kind of the uptick towards the end at least. You didn't get that with Cousins.
And to get people up to speed, if you didn't hear it last week while we were in Indy, Cousins apparently came out and said that he had an injured shoulder that the Falcons did not know about when he began his decline late in the year. What's that all about? These are all things that you'd have to investigate before you even considered making a move for him.
All right, let's go to Bob.
Quick bit of news kind of on topic.
Got?
The Jets released Devontae Adams, according to Rappaport just now. Kind of knew that was going to happen.
No, I appreciate that, Tom. Yeah, they were shopping around, but with his cap number this year, which I think was in the 30s, if I'm not mistaken, there was no way they were going to.
And he will get immediately the highest free agent contract of any receiver this year, I believe.
I don't know if he's going to get more than Chris Godwin. Godwin had a great year last year before he got hurt.
He's also had some injury history.
Yeah, it does have injury history. How much does Adams have left in the tank?
That's a good question too.
He doesn't run like he used to.
No, he's
still a good player.
He's potent.
No, I'm a Devontae Adams fan. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's and again, this is a weird free agency class. It's not a great class. We mentioned Oso Digizua went off the board today to the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. He was probably one of the top 5 guys in this entire class. Trey Smith, another one of those top 5 guys, has been franchised. Who am I missing? T. Higgins is going to get franchised. He's one of those top 5 guys. So you basically left with Milton Williams. And, I mean, who's the next best free agent in the group?
No, he's probably...
I'm trying to think who my 5th guy would be. Is it Godwin? Is it Josh Sweat, maybe? Josh Sweat would maybe be number 5?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. Like, I'm already run out of guys that make $20 million.
Well, that's why
years past, you've had multiple $20 million a year guys. You're not going to have that this year.
Going in, people said there would be very few guys tagged. We knew that going in.
Exactly. So it is what it is. All right, let's go to Bob in New York. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hi, Bob.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome. Thank you for calling, Bob.
This year, I concentrated strictly with the quarterback position, just like last year, because that's what we desperately need. Last year I had Daniels ranked 1, and I had J.J. McCarthy ranked 2, which I got blowback from you. And
everyone can have their own ratings, Bob. That's okay. We all have different opinions. That's fine.
That's an incomplete grade, by the way.
Yeah,
because
nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yep.
Nobody knows.
All I could go by was the preseason, which Daniels had a great preseason, and you had Justin Jefferson on the sideline, mic'd up when J.J. McCarthy played his preseason games, and after he threw his second long touchdown pass, he was screaming on the sideline he had a quarterback. Then the Minnesota coach was interviewed if he felt comfortable starting him in game one, and he said he did. And he said he was way ahead of schedule, and he felt very comfortable, and then the injury happened. And
it also sounds like they aren't going to franchise Darnold, Bob, so that shows that they do have some level of confidence in him, for sure.
Right, exactly. Which I do, too, after watching the preseason. That was the one thing you challenged me on. I remember you asked me, you said, how do I feel about his long pass, delivering the long pass?
I did.
And when Jefferson said we've been working on it, and they asked him what's the next play, and he said it's going to be a long touchdown pass, and he said it twice, and twice he delivered. So I guess he practiced it.
I guess he did.
Yeah. Okay. Now this year I take every Miami game, Colorado game, Ole Miss game, Texas, Syracuse, Georgia, and Oregon, covering Ward, Sanders, Dart, Ewers, McCord, Carson Beck, who was the number one when it first started the college season.
Long time ago.
And Dylan Gabriel.
Yep.
And my ratings this year, just like last year, I have a prediction. Ward is clearly the top quarterback.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my second quarter, now I'm going to get blowback, just like J.J. McCarthy. You're going to interview a lot of people. They're going to give you their opinion on how to rate these quarterbacks. But the second quarterback is Jackson Dart, clearly better than Sanders.
Hey, Bob, I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's as much.
Every Colorado game, every Ole Miss game, he is clearly the better quarterback.
No, Bob, I'll be honest with you. I think Dart's closer to Sanders than Sanders is to Ward, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Bob,
Well,
you're not going to get any argument from me on Dart, because I'd like to get Dart maybe as high as the late first round. I'm a Jackson Dart proponent, so you will not get pushed back from me.
Jackson Dart is not going to pass 7. He is going to rise, and he's going to overtake Sam. I'll tell you that.
Really high for him.
He doesn't go past the Jets at 7.
Hey, Bob, I have seen crazier things, so would I be fall off my chair shocked? I would not be.
Hey, with quarterbacks, you never know.
Quarterbacks, you never know.
Well, I had this conversation in 2018. It was Baker, Donald, and Allen. And I told you after that one, I said Josh Allen was clear above. You guys told me he was inaccurate.
Oh, no. I'm the president of the Josh Allen fan club at Wyoming. John can testify.
Paul loved Josh Allen, Bob.
Love Josh Allen.
I was more of a Darnold guy. Paul loved Josh Allen.
Hold on. You liked Josh Allen better than the other two, but you still said I wouldn't choose him because if your life depended on it. I remember.
I was not for picking a quarterback. I said Allen would be the best one in the draft, though. That is correct.
You weren't picking.
I was committed to the guy who was here. I'm sorry.
With a time machine, when you and John had this conversation December 3rd, I wrote it down. I said, with a time machine, you still wouldn't pick Josh Allen, which
no, because you have to go back to the circumstances at that time. You can't do hindsight. That's not fair. You have to go back to the circumstances.
No, but that was the exercise.
That was the exercise. He was saying with a time machine, would just pick him, and you still wouldn't pick him.
Right. With a time machine, I would not.
But you know what happens if you have the time machine.
I see what you mean. In other words, you want hindsight to play into it.
That had to be the most fun I ever had listening to any one of your conversations was December 3rd with the time machine.
Did you see my head almost explode on the video, Bob, as I was having that conversation with him?
Yeah, obviously. Okay. In the time machine, if I could go back and correct history, yes. Okay. I don't interpret things that way. But yes, if you really want the answer to the time machine thing, if I could fix history and change history, yes.
And Bob, in
Josh
fairness,
Allen would have been my guy.
And also, just remember, it did take Josh Allen 2 years to figure out some of the mechanical things to correct some of the accuracy issues. Yes.
Okay, John, I don't want to argue with you, but
yes.
I watched every Buffalo game his first 2 years, and I remember you guys saying that. And what I watched was a guy who literally put a team on his back for 2 years running the football.
No, running it for sure.
Without an offensive line and without a wide receiver.
No, that's
until
true.
year 3, they picked up 4 offensive linemen and a wide receiver, and the guy exploded.
No, absolutely. No argument there, Bob. But his athleticism and legs helped carry him the first couple of years.
All right, Bob, go back to this year. So you're telling me what now? You're telling me after Dart, what do you got for 3 and 4?
Then I'm going to fast forward to 2020 with Justin Herbert coming out, which I made a phone call and I said the Giants have to pick him. Now, what happened was...
Love Justin Herbert, too. I get you.
You liked him in 2019.
Right, in 19. I wouldn't have drafted him in 20 because, again, I was committed to the guy who was here.
What's your point on this year,
Go ahead.
In 2020, you told me his game fell back, which it did because he had 4 new offensive linemen, and he lost his best wide receiver.
Yep.
But he was still the right
I
pick.
wish he was in this draft. I really do. But he's not.
Okay.
What? Okay,
now,
so Bob, after Dart at 2, who do you have at 3, 4, and 5 this year for your quarterbacks?
Well, that's going to be the problem. What I think is going to happen is it's going to go 1, 2, 3. It's going to go Ward, it's going to go Dart, and it's going to go Sanders, and I don't want Sanders. That's the problem. Sanders is not going to – he's going to be a sack machine is what he's going to be.
That is a worry. I don't think that's wrong.
The guy cannot avoid the pass rush. He doesn't have that wide receiver, Hunter, to throw to. His game is just not going to make it. He's just and I'm afraid Dart's going to be gone. That's how far Dart's going to shoot up the draft board. When you have guys coming on that are experts like Kurt Warner and all them, have them compare the 2 quarterbacks.
What do you love about Dart, Bob? I'm just curious. What is it that has sold you on Dart to the point where you would pick him that high?
All right. When I watch his game, whatever pass rush comes, he avoids it, and he'll run for 6, 7 yards for a first down. Or he'll sidestep it, and he'll be right on the money with a pass. And the he's built like a beast, the guy.
He is thick and sturdy. You're right about that.
And he's got the X factor. There's just something about when I watch a quarterback.
He has the personality. I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God. I would enjoy, and each one of us go into the games next year, tailgating. If we had Dart as our quarterback, the excitement in the room.
Bob, go back to your video.
And I appreciate the call, Bob. Thank you very much.
Go back to your video, Bob.
Good call.
When we were in Indianapolis, and again, we had not had this specific conversation, but back me up on it if you recall it. It seemed to me that a lot of the football people, not draft people, but football people, the Jim Millers of the world and some of the guys who played and were coached, Tyler Shug from Shug, I keep screwing up his name. Shug. He has a very impressive pro skill set. It didn't always show throughout the course of his collegiate career.
A lot of injuries.
He had a broken collarbone. He had a broken fibula.
I think he did. He had his collarbone twice.
Well, the one healed. Then he got hurt a second time.
Right.
And then he had a broken fibula.
Correct. On a hip drop topical, by the way.
Correct. Which, as he explained at the podium, can happen to anybody.
Correct.
His skill set, when we talk to really, really detailed football people, not draft gurus, but football people, they were awfully impressed with him as a dark horse in this draft.
Dane Brugler loved him. Yeah, and
did you not get that sense?
And Brugler, who's a draft guy, he loved him too.
And they were telling us that if you just look at a pure skill set and you don't put a lot of emphasis on the college tape and on the injury stuff, and you just say, all right, let's just look at this guy. He really impresses football people. And by the way, great personality at the podium. He has the frame, and he certainly has the leadership and the verbal skills to be a quarterback.
He has a little bit of an it factor. I agree.
He does. He does. Now, how high is he going to go? I don't know. Bob, go back and try to look at some Louisville tape.
And by the way, it is Shook. It's not Shug. It's like a CK at the end.
It's a CK?
It's Shook.
I heard about 5 different pronunciations while we were in Indy.
I sent you the official pronunciation.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, and I looked at it last night, and I'm like,
it's like SH.
Why is everybody calling him different?
It's like SHUCK.
So Shook.
Shook.
Fine. We're going with Shook.
And it's funny, he was asked that at the Senior Bowl, and he goes, yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but that sounds pretty
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he said to us pretty much. Which
it's spelled differently without a CK.
So here's a question. Let's say you get a veteran quarterback in free agency. Let's just say, so you don't get mad, let's say they get Russell Wilson. Okay? And he's sitting there.
Okay.
Cam Ward goes 1. Shador goes 2. You don't like Jackson Dart enough to pick him 3, but he goes like 15th. And you're sitting there in the second round. And I have not watched the tape yet, so I'm not giving my answer because I have not watched his tape yet.
No, we haven't done that.
Would you consider Shook at the top of round 2? Because I don't think he's getting to the top of round 3.
I had never thought about this guy.
Remember, I told you going into the Senior Bowl, I had high hopes for him.
You had mentioned it, and then at Indy, when we heard all these positive things about him, he seems to be the key dark horse of all the quarterbacks who could move up the most.
Yeah, look, I saw him up close to the Senior Bowl. I've watched like his 50, 60 plays of him, but I haven't like dug into the tape yet. So, but I think if you're going to want him, I don't think he's getting to round 3. Now, the other thing too, he's 26, or he's going to be 26 next year.
Yeah. Now, he claimed in talking to the teams at the Combine, he claimed that did not seem to be much of an issue. But of course, what's he going to say?
That wouldn't be a factor for me either, because you're still getting him for 2 contracts.
Yeah.
You're fine. He'll be a free agent at age 30. You sign him for one more 5 or 6 year deal. You have him until he's 36, and you're rocking, and you're fine.
Now, he does have the age factor, which means the maturity factor, and you could see he's very mature.
Yes.
When we talked to him at the podium, I mean, this guy is in complete control, great composure, great professionalism, assertive, confident. I mean, well-spoken, astute. There's nothing not to like about him. He passes the personal one-on-one eyewitness test. He does. He absolutely does. Now, because of the injuries, though, he's got a lot less playing time.
Yeah, he's old, but doesn't have a ton of snaps.
Right.
And he said that too at the podium. Look, I'm not that experienced actually playing football because of 3 seasons lost due to injury. And in one of his spots, he basically had trouble holding on to the starting job. Was that Texas Tech?
Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Texas Tech. So now the question becomes the lack of snaps that he's had for the experience that he's had. How much is he going to need catching up?
Now, I like the fact he's been in a bunch of systems, so he knows how to learn new things and all that sort of stuff. I like that. But, yeah, no, it's a great question.
I'll say this, John. If somehow the Giants are into that second day, and again, I don't know if he goes 3rd round, but all of a sudden, if they don't have a quarterback in the 1st round or the 2nd round, and they're still looking for one in the 3rd, I'll be frank with you. As I sat here today, without looking deep at the tape, I'd start thinking about him.
Yeah, if he gets there.
If he gets there.
The way people were talking about him.
It doesn't sound like he's getting there.
It doesn't.
No.
Let's go to Wilson in Roxbury. He's up next. Hi, Wilson.
Gentlemen, long time no talk.
Welcome back from vacation, Wilson. How are you?
No, I just took a step back and listened to everybody. But, Jimmy, listen, that guy that called you before, he must have a lot of time on his hands, man. Watch every Ole Miss game, Buffalo game, the Bills game, and the Giants, you hire him.
Bob sounded like he was a nice older gentleman that was retired. Bob, if you're not and you're younger, I will apologize ahead of time, but he clearly did his homework, which I like to hear.
Wilson, I just got one question for you before you start. Was that you hiding behind a trash can on the corner of the Indianapolis Convention Center trying to stake out Joe Shane? Because I could have sworn that was you.
No.
Okay.
Listen, I have nothing against these 2 guys. I just don't think that they're good at it. Yeah, that's a different guy. But let me ask something. Johnny, listen, real quick before I start.
Yes.
If your boss comes to you, right, and tells you, Johnny, listen, you finished last in ratings last year. You lost half my subscribers. Johnny, I bet see major improvement next year. He's telling you, you better finish in the top 3rd in ratings, and you better get me half of those subscribers back. So John Mara basically said, without saying, I better see improvement. Johnny, I don't care what anybody says, 5, 6, 7, it's not going to cut it. They either make the playoffs or they got to be right there. So
Wilson, he didn't say it without saying it. He said it. I mean, he didn't put a benchmark. He didn't put a benchmark of the playoffs, but he flat out said the team needs to be much better this year.
Right.
I
think the wording was he needs to feel much better about the team this time next year when he's talking.
Okay, Paulie,
that's what he needs.
Paulie,
he didn't use the word playoffs.
He refused to. He was actually asked playoffs directly.
So
he said
be
no.
careful, Wilson. It's not a mandate
like Wilson,
to the playoffs.
for example, if the Giants win like 8 games and they're in it on Christmas. Like,
I'll sign for.
I think that'll be good enough.
Give me a paper, Johnny. I'll sign for it right now.
Yes.
Okay. So having said that, unfortunately, there is no future for these 2 individuals. Their future is right now. So under that atmosphere that Joe Shane and Brian Davis are working, you cannot. I don't think John Mara's going to let them draft a quarterback in the third overall pick, and I don't think that John Mara's going to let them do any crazy stuff like move forward and give future assets. So to me, Johnny, Well,
Wilson, real quick. Trading a bunch of future assets, I think they will hesitate to do that, and not because of ownership. I just think they'll hesitate to do that in general. John Mara would absolutely let them draft a quarterback at 3. 100% he would let them do that. So get that out of your head. I can guarantee you that.
So we disagree on that. We disagree.
No. There isn't a disagreement, Wilson. I'm telling you factually.
Yeah.
John Mara will let them take a quarterback.
He's not going to interfere in that regard.
All right. So obviously, Johnny, you're there, so you know more than me. So I guess that one. I'll lead that one. But let me tell you something. Giants fans like myself, Johnny, we won 9 games in 2 years, right? We can go through this again. So I have, Johnny, you know I love the Giants, and I love you guys, and I love everything, and I say crazy stuff, but at the end of the day, man, I don't care who is the head coach, who is the general manager. I just want to have fun on Sundays. You know that.
Of course.
Even though it's football, you know that, right?
Everybody agrees with you about that, Wilson.
What happened? I'm sorry.
Everybody agrees. We all want to have more fun.
All right, Paulie, thank you. So Paulie, so for me, I really have a hard time getting pumped up and being excited for the future for this upcoming season, Paulie. So if you bring Aaron Rodgers in, that will give us some juice. Listen, I mean, to me, he's still a top 10 quarterback in the sense that he can throw the ball.
I don't know if he's top 10 anymore, Wilson. I'm not sure if he's top 10 anymore. No,
okay. I'm just saying, throwing the football, Johnny. Throwing the football, reading the defenses. You know what I mean?
Reading defenses, maybe.
He'll give you a chance.
Maybe
He'll give you a chance.
No, he will give you a chance.
Right. Okay. So at least every game that we go to every game that we play, we have a chance. We're not just completely like, okay, how many points are we going to lose to that? You know what I'm saying, Johnny? So that is a little excitement. He might find some juice. You know, he lives in Montclair. He spent a lot of money in his home in Montclair. He doesn't want to move again. So at least it's not a. I think, Johnny. I think it's actually a good move. And Johnny, quarterbacks in the second round, you know this, and you too, Paulie, they don't cost you anything. You can draft a quarterback in the second round every draft until you might hit a home run out of the park. So, you know, a second-round quarterback, to me, you can draft one this year, one next year, one the year after that. And if you might hit it, you might not, but it doesn't cost you anything. You know what I mean? But the third overall pick, just to draft a quarterback because you think you have to me, that is organization malpractice. You can't do that.
No, of course not. No, you only pick the quarterback at 3 as if you think he has a chance to be a difference-making top 10 level quarterback.
Yeah, right. So, and I don't know anything about other quarterbacks, but I just find it kind of funny that, you know, people say, well, this guy is a shooter. Who the hell knows, Johnny?
No, nobody knows. No, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. I mean, like I said before, you know, I told you this last year because they were talking about this guy Jackson. I never heard of this guy in my life. But, you know, last year, Johnny, or whenever, remember when Malik Willis was going to be a top 5 pick, top 10 pick? I mean, and Bo Nix was supposed to go in the second round. You know what I mean, Jenny? We don't know. But
and that's why you keep taking swings, Wilson. That's why you keep taking swings.
Yeah, but
you know, Wilson, there were people who thought that Ryan Leaf was going to be better than Peyton Manning. When those two guys came out, there was a split decision as to which guy's going to be better, but everybody thought both guys would be good. But they didn't know who was going to be better. So it is a crapshoot.
We got to, Wilson, real fast. We got to go real fast.
No. Remember, Ryan Leaf started 2-0, and Peyton Manning started 0-2, and everybody was calling him a bust.
Thank you, Wilson. Appreciate the call, brother. Good to hear from you. Don't be a stranger. This is going to be fun.
Oh, boy. Next week.
By the way, Wilson wanting Aaron Rodgers is the most on-brand thing that I've ever heard in my entire life. It makes me so happy that he's on board with that. It makes me so happy. All we need is Charlie to call up and second it.
I know. Oh, my goodness.
Both of them are probably into the same, like, natural healing stuff. They're probably very much on the same page there. The same medicinal theories. Hello? Thank you, Paul.
Oh, good to see you again,
That's
John.
Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac. Sytak's on vacation. He's gallivanting somewhere. Where is he? I think he's in Mexico. So we got
Mexico,
Pearson. Yeah. We got Pearson swishing around the chateau in France.
Yes.
We got Sytak doing God knows what in Mexico. And Paul and I are here in New Jersey. And then Lance will come in on Friday, and he doesn't go anywhere. Neither do you, for that matter.
I'm a workaholic, John. I can't help it.
All right. So we'll see you tomorrow. Paul and I, the reason I brought that up, Paul and I next 2 days, and me and Lance on Friday, Big Blue Kickoff Live. We'll see you tomorrow. Giants Huddle coming up later on today.
Yes.
Cynthia Freeland is up. Check it out. Draft season's posting later today, too. Check that out as well. And then later in the week, we're going to have Joe Cora, who I mentioned, then Steve Palazzolo from the 3013 to do Combine recap and free agency. So all that's coming your way. Check it out. We'll talk to you tomorrow.